recently, ASQA updated its risk priorities, and since then, I've had quite a few people get in touch asking what these priorities actually mean in practice. Now, it's one thing to read the information on ASQA's website. It's another thing entirely to work out what that actually means for your RTO, and more importantly, what you should actually do about it. So I've decided to put together this series where we'll work through each of ASQA's current risk priorities one at a time. In each video, I'll briefly show you what ASQA has published, then I'll translate it into plain English, I'll explain why it matters, share some of the common issues that I see in the sector, and then finish with some practical actions you can take in your own RTO. Now, my goal with this isn't simply to help you to understand ASQA's priorities. It's to help you to build stronger educational practice, stronger governance, and stronger organisational capability, because ultimately, that's what delivers better outcomes for learners. Now, if this sounds useful, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of the series. So, let's jump into today's risk priority. So in this video, we'll be focusing on the risk priority, integrity of qualifications and competency outcomes. So in terms of the key focus for priority list, we have facilitated academic cheating and assessor-led completions, AI-enabled assessment and document fraud, falsification of training, assessment, and administrative records, misuse and industrialisation of recognition of prior learning, RPL pathways, compromised workplace assessment, and evidence integrity. Now, again, I'm not going to spend time reading all of the risk overview because you are able to access that yourself via ASQA's website, and it's a lot of wordage that I can explain better in the video in more simple terms. So let's talk about what this really means for RTOs. Now, when I read this risk priority, there's one word that jumps into my mind above everything else: trust. At its heart, this risk priority is about whether people can trust the qualifications are sector issues. Think about it. When an employer hires someone with a qualification, they're making an assumption. When a learner invests their time and money in a qualification, they're making an assumption. When another training provider accepts a credit transfer, they're making an assumption. They're all assuming that the qualification actually means something, that it represents genuine competence, that it reflects the skills and knowledge someone needs to perform effectively. So, when ASQA talks about the integrity of qualifications and competency outcomes, they're not simply asking whether assessments have been completed correctly. They're asking, can the Australian community trust the qualifications issued by your RTO? Because once that trust is lost, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. Now, sometimes we think of a qualification as the end point, right? The certificate gets issued and the learner moves on. But that's not the end of the story. Every qualification your RTO issues becomes part of your reputation, and it contributes to the reputation of the vet sector. And more importantly, it has real consequences in workplaces. If someone's deemed competent when they're not ready, that can affect safety. It can affect productivity. It can affect customers, clients, patients. It can affect other workers. In some industries, it can literally put lives at risk. That's why integrity isn't an administrative concept. It's an educational responsibility. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions I come across is the idea that assessment is simply about collecting evidence. Now, of course, we need evidence, but evidence isn't the outcome, competence is. Sometimes I think we've become so focused on whether every document's being completed that we stop asking whether the learner can actually perform consistently in the workplace. Another thing that I see is assessment becoming a process of helping learners pass rather than determining whether they're actually genuinely competent. Our role isn't to find ways around the requirements. Our role is to make fair, valid, and evidence-based judgments about competence. And that can sometimes be uncomfortable. It means that there'll be occasions where learners need more development before they're ready to be deemed competent. And that's okay. That's exactly what protects the integrity of the qualification. I also think it's important to point out that no RTO gets everything right all the time, right? That's not what integrity is about. Integrity is about making honest, professional decisions. It's about being willing to identify issues. It's about acting when something doesn't feel right. It's about maintaining standards even when those decisions are commercially difficult. So, if I were leading an RTO right now, these are 5 things I'd be doing. Number 1, review your assessment decisions. Not just whether the paperwork's complete, ask whether the evidence genuinely demonstrates competence. Number 2, talk to your trainers and assessors and ask them, do you ever feel pressured to deem learners competent before they're ready? And if the answer's yes, you've identified a risk that needs immediate attention. Number 3, look at your validation activities. Are you validating just because it's scheduled, or are you genuinely using validation to improve assessment quality and strengthen confidence in your assessment judgments? Number 4, follow up with employers. Ask whether graduates are performing as expected. Employer feedback is one of the strongest indicators of whether competency outcomes are actually translating into workplace performance. And number 5, create a culture where it's okay to say, this learner isn't competent yet. Competency isn't about passing, it's about being ready. One of the most professional decisions an assessor can make is to provide additional learning and reassessment rather than signing someone off too early. Now, if there was one thing I'd recommend to start addressing this risk priority over the next month, it would be to just choose one recently completed assessment and sit down with the assessor and ask them, what gave you confidence that this learner was genuinely competent? Not what evidence they collected, not which forms they completed, what gave them confidence in their judgment. And that conversation will tell you a lot about the maturity of your assessment practices. So my biggest takeaway from this risk priority is qualifications only have value because people trust what they represent. Every assessment decision your RTO makes either strengthens that trust or weakens it. This conversation isn't really about compliance. It's a conversation about professional judgment. It's about protecting learners and protecting employers. And it's about protecting the reputation of every RTO that's committed to doing the right thing. Because qualifications don't just certify learning, they represent confidence. Confidence that someone can do the job safely, effectively, and to the standard the industry expects. And that's a responsibility that every RTO should be taking seriously. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe because next time we'll be unpacking another of ASQA's risk priorities and translating it into practical actions you can take in your own RTO. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.